Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today. So we'll kick.
Why is it a foundational issue for Trump that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon? Why is this something that the U.S. should be involved in? Why are we allied with Israel?
He says because they chant death to America.
They chant death to America. I went to Iran in 2014. I was sitting at a rally. These young guys were chanting death to America. I had a minder. I said, "What are they saying?" They're saying death to America. They finished the chant, and two young men came over and said, "Are you American?" I said, "Yes. We want to welcome you to our country. We love American culture and love American movies." They wanted to talk about all these things. Iran is the most Western nation in the whole Middle East. We have much more in common with them than a lot of countries that we do have alliances with.
If I was in California's legal position here, I would tell the governor, you don't want to appeal this. You don't want to bring this up to the Supreme Court. Yes, you have the option to ask them to take it. That's your sort of last best chance here. But I think you're going to lose, California. I don't see any way any of the 6 conservatives on the Supreme Court say, sure, a trial-level district judge can overrule the president on this issue just because he disagrees. I even think some of the liberals might join with the conservatives on this, as we saw with the Biden appointee. So it's an interesting strategic decision. If they do bring it up to the Supreme Court, California, and if the Supreme Court rules again in favor of the Trump administration, then that's going to be nationwide binding, an even bigger loss for California.
But this decision, in essence, gives Trump the green light to use the National Guard in other states. And the administration has been hinting very publicly that they're going to go into New York City, Chicago, maybe some other states, all happen to be blue.
I can tell you that in New York City, if he deploys the National Guard in New York, it'll cause it's going to cause a giant outrage and create probably more violence than there would be anyway.
Isn't that what he wants?
Well, that's of course one of the working theories, that he wants to create this all over the country and then declare martial law.
What we see in the data, and I've looked at a number of different polls, they've asked it different ways, but the clear majority of Republicans in any poll that you look, GOP on U.S. airstrikes against Iran, if Iran's pursuing nuclear arms, you see it here, the Republican Party, again, is with Donald Trump, 69% in this particular poll from the Chicago Council that was taken a few months ago, compared to 27% who are opposed. But again, even if you look at the other polling data, it all points in the same direction. Republicans are with Donald Trump on this particular issue, and they're with Donald Trump at large. And when you go against Donald Trump, you go down.
What exactly would a deal with Iran need to entail?
No enrichment of uranium, and it would absolutely not. Iran is absolutely not able to achieve a nuclear weapon. The president has been very clear about that. And by the way, the deal that Special Envoy Witkoff proposed to the Iranians was both realistic and acceptable within its terms, and that's why the president is sent that deal to them.
They said Gen Z would stay silent, that we'd back down, that we'd forget what's worth fighting for. But this generation remembers. We remember truth. We remember freedom. And now, we rise. This is more than a conference. It's a call to action, to reclaim the future, to ignite a movement that cannot be ignored. Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Charlie Kirk, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, and more. Join thousands of students, future leaders, and freedom fighters. Raise your voice and take action. This is the battleground of ideas. This is the Student Action Summit. The future is ours to build. Register now at SAS2025.com. Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Okay, everybody, radio stations across the country. Honored to be with you. As always, we are here live at the Bitcoin.com studio here back in Mission Control here in Phoenix, Arizona. I was out on assignment in Washington, D.C., and one day, a month, a year, 10 years from now, I will tell you where I was and what I was doing. So you'll just have to infer and guess what I was doing. More importantly, though, we have this ever-growing conflict in front of us, the Israel-Iran conflict. Will the United States get involved? Will the United States decide to use bunker-busting bombs? As I've said once, and I'll say again, President Trump has beyond earned our trust on all foreign affairs issues. He took out Soleimani. He took out ISIS. He has bombed the Houthis. President Donald Trump has been a leader who is willing to use American military might where necessary, but not for prolonged conflicts. He's not a nation builder guy. He's not a let's change the population sentiment guy. There's only one nation that Donald Trump wants to build, and that is America. He wants to rebuild this country with infrastructure, a border, rising wages to get rid of inflation, mass deportations. President Donald Trump is focused on pouring money back into America. He's focused like a laser beam on that. And President Trump has earned our trust on all things foreign affairs. So right now you have Lindsey Graham, you have James Lankford, you have Tom Tillis. They're calling for regime change. They're calling for regime change. But a step before that, almost the entire industrial media class right now is calling for a bombing of Fordo. Sounds good. But I think it's time that we get a couple answers. And we, the American people, deserve answers to this because after the 2020 election, after COVID, remember 2020, most secure election in history, everything was wonderful. Oh, really? We all know the truth there. How about COVID? 6 feet to slow the spread, vaccine is safe and effective, shut down the schools, mask while you shower. COVID came from a bat. So we were lied to there by the mass media and lied to there by the intelligence agencies. How about Joe Biden's mental decline? Joe Biden's perfectly fine. He's perfectly fit. It's a deep fake. You're wrong. He's never been sharper. How about the Hunter Biden laptop? That is Russian disinformation that our own intel community signed a letter saying that it was Russian disinformation. Our own intel community did that. Well, I'm sorry, that very same intel community should probably be questioned and challenged because they're the ones that are now pushing to bomb Fordo. The very same intel community that told us that COVID came from a bat lab, and the very same intel community that is telling us that was Russia was the biggest threat ever. You're going to have to earn our trust. You might be right, but you're going to have to earn our trust on this one. We are not going to blindly trust the intel community based on the track record of the last 5 years. 2020 election, most secure election in history. COVID, 6 feet to slow the spread, safe and effective. So before we commit to another military operation in the Middle East, which might be the best decision, here are some questions that I'm curious about, that I think that we need to have answered. Do you know that Ronald Reagan had Team B? He had Team A and Team B. Team B, I learned this from Steve Bannon. Team B was a totally independent intel group that would analyze the intel the president was getting to double check to make sure the president wasn't being cross-wired by Team A, all of the intel experts. This is necessary. I think President Trump needs Team B immediately. Team B could be led by J.D. Vance. You could have Amaryllis Kennedy. You could have these incredible people that would double check what the intel agency are saying to make sure that the President Trump's information flow is robust. And by the way, the president has such good instincts here, phenomenal instincts. I have no idea why the president all of a sudden is saying 2 weeks. Could it be that maybe he's just doing a little of a double beat? Maybe he just wants to make sure he gets all sides, no blind spots, because these very same intel agencies, even though that we have great people now running them, We have not rooted out all of the cockroaches. These are the very same intel agencies that targeted him and did Russiagate and went and did a foreign dossier funded by the Democrat National Committee while they were lying about it to go get a warrant against Donald Trump to displace him from becoming president. And President Trump hasn't forgotten that. That's why we must trust President Trump. But I have put together a list here, and it's a working list of some things that we, the American people, deserve to know. And if you get angry as I go through this list, I'm really suspicious as to why. We deserve answers to this. And maybe some of these things we don't know. Maybe the answers are, there's a high risk. We don't, and that's fine. That is an acceptable answer. Just be honest and tell us the truth. Because there were lies about the invasion of Afghanistan. There were lies about the Iraq war. There were lies about the Libya civil war. There were lies about the Syrian civil war. There were lies about what's happening in Ukraine. And so before we involve America in another military operation in the Middle East, which might be the right decision because Iran should not get a nuclear weapon, here are some answers to some questions. If Fordo is hit with an American bunker buster, will it totally take out Iran's nuclear capability? What is an approximation chance that it will? Will the bunker buster actually work? And secondly, what percentage chance that it will take out the entire nuclear program of Iran? I was talking to some people, and they said, oh, this will be the death blow of the nuclear program of Iran. Is that right? Because I actually don't think that's true. Because we're told right now that Iran is 15 days out from a nuke if they want it, even after the Israeli strikes. Even after the strikes that Israel has had a week later, they're still 15 days out. Can we play that from the U.S. ambassador to the UN? Can we play that piece of tape, please, that we had? It's very powerful. I don't know what cut it is. 400.
Have avoided this conflict had they agreed to a deal that would have prevented them from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. But they refused to do so, choosing instead to delay and deny. We can no longer ignore that Iran has all that it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon. All it needs is a decision from their supreme leader. That is unacceptable, and this council must urge them to change course.
This is today. They're saying that the UN 15 days after Israeli airstrikes. Has anything changed since the airstrikes? I know that there was uranium enrichment facilities that were bombed. I know that nuclear scientists were taken out. The New York Times is reporting today that the 15-day timeline from Israeli intelligence shows that even after all of these airstrikes, they still might be able to get a nuclear weapon. So I will repeat, if Fordo is hit, will it totally take out Iran's nuclear capability, and what is the percentage chance that it will? And if it doesn't work, what is the plan? Here's another very heavy question. How many American troops might die in Iranian retaliatory strikes? You know, I was talking to somebody that was, watching cable news a lot, and they're very on board for Fordo. I said, American troops might die in response. They said, no, Iran doesn't have any missiles left. I said, well, no, that's not true, actually. They have 2,000 hypersonic ballistic missiles that are still raining terror over Israel, and we should pray for the peace of Jerusalem as Iran strikes hospitals. And there are over 40,000 American troops within ballistic missile range of Iran. So what are the estimates? Because you better believe the American military and the intel community, they run war games and estimates. What are the estimates of how many American troops will die if Iran responds after we bomb Fordo? So imagine a scenario where we bomb Fordo, it doesn't work, we tick off the Iranians, they then launch a ballistic missile at an American base, killing 100 Americans. How do we respond? Do we respond then with more bombing? I thought this was about a nuclear program. That's a very important question. If American troops were to die in the response of the Iranian ballistic missile attack, what then would our response be? More escalation? Troops on the ground? And how many Americans would potentially die in such a strike? I'm just beginning with this comprehensive list that we as Americans deserve answers to after we have been lied to so repeatedly. You better believe President Trump understands this. better than anybody else. Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is amazing, but did you know that we have cutting-edge technology? Switching is easy, no store visits, no hassle. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team can activate you in minutes right over the phone. And get this, Patriot Mobile is one of the few carriers with access to all 3 major networks. You can get this from the big guys. Go to patriotmobile.com/Charlie. That is patriotmobile.com/Charlie for a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/Charlie, or call 972-PATRIOT. So take a look at it right now at patriotmobile.com/Charlie, patriotmobile.com/Charlie. We're just getting started. We deserve answers to these questions. We'll be right back.
From the campus to the car, the bullhorn to the microphone, it's the Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and check out yrefi.com. Yrefi is amazing. I'm meeting with their team actually later today. Great folks. You know, they were the support of our incredible campus tour, our Young Men's Leadership Summit, our Student Action Summit. They are the best. Go to yrefi.com. They are your go-to destination for all things private student loans. Do you know that private student loan debt in America totals over $300 billion? Many clients are not even able to pay off their private student loans, but YRefi helps. It may not be available in all 50 states. Can you imagine being debt-free and not living under this burden anymore? Well, the first step is to contact YRefi. Just call 888-YRefi-34. That is 888-YRefi-34. So take a look at it right now, YRefi.com. Do you have a co-borrower? YRefi can get them released from the loan and you give mom or dad a break. So go to YRefi.com. Many clients aren't even able to make the minimum monthly payments on their private student loans when you first contact YRefi. Go to YRefi.com. When the payment on your distressed or defaulted private student loan is so big that you can ever get ahead in your finances, YRefi is surely your your best option. Go to yrefy.com. That is YREFY.com. May not be available in all 50 states. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. Okay, so I do have a question, and we're at the Bitcoin.com studio. God forbid a single American troop dies. God forbid. However, it is likely that the Iranians will retaliate if we bomb Fordo with ballistic missiles at American bases. For those of you in the audience that want us to bomb Fordo, what would be an acceptable number? If 1,000 Marines die, would that have you second guess? Now, that is a very high estimate, but no one is being honest with us about estimates. Would 100 be acceptable? If 100 Marines die, do we just kind of say no more? By the way, that's not unprecedented. Remember, Ronald Reagan had the barracks bombing in Lebanon, and over 280 Marines died, and Reagan pulled out. He was mocked by the neocons, but Reagan said there is no good option after this. 280 Marines die, and we're pulling out. Somalia, another option, another example. Black Hawk Down. Sometimes when a lot of American service members die, you back out. Now, it doesn't make you look overly strong, but it might actually be the prudent decision. What assurances can we have that bombing such a facility will result in no nukes for Iran? Will that end the program permanently? If not, what will? If that won't end the nuclear program, how long would it take to undo the damage? How long would it take for a country like Iran to build a nuclear program if they really, truly wanted to? According to the U.S. ambassador to the UN, they could get it in nearly 6 weeks, 15 days. They have not been sprinting towards a nuclear bomb recently. So let's say that you bomb Fordo. The Ayatollah is still alive. The country is in a very weak position. But because they're being bombed relentlessly, what if a more charismatic, younger leader says the number one priority is that we are going to want to to build a nuclear bomb? What does that timeline look like? Does this eliminate the program for good, or does this just buy us time? Because I could tell you right now, a lot of the rank and file that I'm talking to, they said, oh, this gets rid of the nuclear program for good, pure annihilation. I don't think that's right. And if it just buys us time, what does it buy us time for exactly? And of course, we're clear. We don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. Nobody wants that. But is this a permanent death blow? Or is this a, hey, we're going to purchase you guys 2 years? And if it buys you 2 years, is 100 troops worth 2 years? I don't know. If Iran moved at max speed, what is the timeline to get a nuclear weapon? Another question. Have the Israeli airstrikes done anything to actually prevent their nuclear program? If so, what? Because it sounds like it hasn't. It sounds like they're all saying, well, they're still very close to a nuclear bomb. They've been bombing them for a week. They took out the nuclear scientists. They are bombing oil fields. They're bombing uranium enrichment. Has it derailed the nuclear program? And if not, what has the objective of this mission been? If, this is a big if bombing Fordo can't permanently destroy the nuclear program, will advocates of a limited intervention pivot to immediately demanding a full regime change war? Because a lot of people are calling for regime change right now. Lindsey Graham, James Lankford, Tom Tillis. What does that even look like? Here's a big one, because you better believe the intel community has done this. They run these war games. One of the most important questions that we deserve an answer to: what are the refugee estimates of such regime change? 1 million? 5 million? It was 6 million in Syria, and Iran is nearly, I think, triple the size of Syria. So 18 million refugees? Oh, that's nice. Where are they going to go? Pittsburgh? Springfield, Ohio? You break it, you bought it. They're not going to go to Tel Aviv. I can tell you right now, Israel, nor should they, will they accept a single refugee. Where will they go? Berlin? Denver? Who is most likely to take power next? If the Ayatollah is taken out, who's the front runner? Who's the Kalshi Poly Market odds-on favorite for being the successor to the Ayatollah? What do we know about him? Is he more moderate? Is he younger? Is he more religious? Is he more radical? It's Mojtaba Khamenei. Mojtaba Khamenei. Okay, fine. The son. Is he more moderate? Is he more radical? And if we take out that guy, who comes after him? What is the line of succession here? This is an ideological regime. Boy, I have so many other questions here. And no one's saying this. Why? Guys, learn the lesson from COVID. Learn the lesson from the 2020 election. Learn the lesson from Hunter Biden laptop. Learn the lesson from Biden's health decline. You can always bomb tomorrow. Today, it's measure twice and cut once. And President Trump, he understands this. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. President Trump is set to travel to The Hague in the Netherlands next week for a NATO summit. The issue of the conflict between Israel and Iran will likely be one of the key discussion points, as most world leaders agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. The issue of Iran's continued uranium enrichment and nuclear program is at the heart of the fighting right now. While Israel is taking the lead on attacking Iran, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump will make a decision on the U.S. involvement in the fight within the next 2 weeks.
The president is always interested in a diplomatic solution to the problems and the global conflicts in this world. Again, he is a peacemaker in chief. He is the peace through strength president. And so if there's a chance for diplomacy, the president's always going to grab it. But he's not afraid to use strength as well.
Iran has never been closer to obtaining a nuclear weapon. She also says the Islamic Republic has everything it needs to achieve a nuke and could develop one within weeks. Excuse me. Just in this morning, the U.S. Supreme Court upholds a congressional statute that allows Americans to sue Palestinian authorities for the murders or injuries of Americans in the attacks abroad. The measure allows plaintiffs to pursue monetary damages for violence perpetrated years ago in Israel and in the West Bank. The High Court's unanimous ruling overturned a lower court's decision that the 2019 law violated the rights of the Palestinian Authority and the Palestine Liberation Organization. At issue were concerns of due process under the U.S. Constitution. The federal government and a group of American victims and their families appealed that ruling to the Supreme Court. The ongoing violence involving Israel and the Palestinians serves as a backdrop for the case and today's High Court ruling. That ruling, by the way, was one of 6 the High Court handed down today. The others include guidance on California's emission standards. However, 10 cases are still yet to be decided. One of the more anticipated rulings has to do with a challenge to President Trump's order denying birthright citizenship to U.S.-born citizens or children, of parents who are in the country illegally. The order is on ice at the moment as a lower court blocked it. That's a quick check of your headlines.
That's great. They don't write songs like that anymore, let me tell you. Have you heard the music lately? Oh, it's terrible. You have that Sandy Carpenter girl? She's terrible. All right. What do we have here? TikTok. America's small businesses rely on TikTok to succeed, helping them attract more customers and drive more growth. From small batch sellers to fast-growing brands, 74% of businesses on TikTok say it's helped them scale by hiring more employees, boosting sales, and expanding to new locations. Like Arizona Taco King, who grew from a mom-and-pop taco cart to 2 thriving restaurants in just a year. Or Coco Asante, who upgraded to a larger facility and brought on more staff, letting their handcrafted chocolates reach more customers. Or Dan O Seasoning, who went from a one-man team of 40, now to a team of 45. Go to TikTokeconomicimpact.com. With TikTok small businesses are thriving. We literally have 15 to 20 million views a day, reaching Generation Z. We go so viral on TikTok, it's unbelievable. I had a huge Juneteenth video yesterday on TikTok, and it went mega viral. Go to TikTokeconomicimpact.com. That is TikTokeconomicimpact.com. We have the great Sean Davis here. Sean, welcome. You went very viral yesterday on X, and thank you for your courageous moral clarity on all of this. I don't like people, oh, what side are you on? It's not a matter of what side. I'm on America's side. I'm on Team Civilization. I can't stand Iran. I hate the mullahs. I'm profusely pro-Israel. I also have the battle wounds and scars the last 5 years of being lied to about the 2020 election, COVID, Biden's mental health decline, Hunter Biden laptop, all of that. And so I'm going through a list of questions here, Sean, and I just want to have you kind of go through this with me. So the other one, I asked this because I'm saying, like, here's are things we deserve answers to. By the way, President Trump's handling this beautifully because I think this one, who knows why he's pausing? This could be one of the main reasons. What are the chances of a civil war if there's regime change in Iran? Since the same people who pushed for Libya, Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, regime change, are doing it again, what have they done to re-earn our trust? Is this about nukes or is it about removing a regime? Sean, in the last week, it's gone from, very interestingly, this is Israel's war and let Israel finish it, great, to America needs to do bunker busters, to now some people are saying we need to do regime change. What exactly is the goal here?
Yeah, we don't know. And that's what I find so frustrating, because I lived through and watched the Iraq war run up. They spent a year and a half telling us about all this intel. They sent Colin Powell to the UN. Congress, at least to its credit, mistakenly, in my view, obviously in hindsight, actually authorized it, which is apparently something we don't do anymore, is have Congress authorize or declare wars. But they spent a year and a half kind of working the public, telling us all this stuff. Well, let's ignore that most of it was false. I feel like they're speed running through that propaganda campaign in the span of like a week right now. And I guess what bothers me, I want to go back to the beginning. I absolutely don't want our enemies, people who want to kill us, to have nuclear weapons that they can use against us. But I want to go right back to the beginning. What is the evidence that they are, one, about to get nuclear weapons? Where does it come from? What's the veracity? And then number two, what ability do they have to attack us? So I think even before we get to regime change, which a lot of people have wanted for 40 years, let's just talk about like that baseline question. What's the evidence? And I don't feel like we've been given any at all. Just like in the Iraq war, it's being asserted. And it's not that I disbelieve everything that we're told. It's that I don't believe any of it, rather than just assuming, oh, yeah, it's coming from, people who obviously wouldn't get stuff wrong. I just don't believe it anymore. Like, convince me, show me, don't tell me. And I don't feel like any of that's happening. And I find it really frustrating, having seen in the past where that leads.
Well, so let's just take one of these pieces. So that's a phenomenal analysis. So somebody just emailed us. They said, Charlie, we have to bomb Fordo because it will totally eliminate Iran's nuclear program. Actually, that's not true, okay? And by the way, if it is true, then someone prove it to me, because we just had someone in front of the UN say they're still 15 days out. They're still 6 weeks out from a bomb. So, by the way, if Fordo is like a death blow and that's it, they'll never get a nuke, like you have just eliminated it, then go make that case. But if that was the case, then why are they also simultaneously calling for regime change, and the Israeli government is doing that? And so, again, we have been so misled the last 20 years, misled on Iraq, misled on Afghanistan, misled on the open border, misled on COVID, misled on the 2020 election, misled on Hunter Biden laptop, misled on Joe Biden's. Joe Biden's perfectly fine. It's a bunch of deep fakes. So you and I are trained as outsiders to look at kind of this narrative war and say, whoa, it's been a crazy week. Let's take a pause. Let's take a breath. And we just need to make sure we're morally clear. Israel is a moral civilization, or Iran is controlled by crazy Ayatollah mullahs. No one has any moral confusion on this program. We're America first. We love America. We grieve when any innocents are dying. Okay, we get all those moral parameters there. But Sean, I can't help but think that there's so many different components here. Like, for example, if Fordo is hit with an American bunker buster, will it totally take out Iran's nuclear capability? And what is the percentage chance that it will?
Yeah, that's a great fundamental question. And again, I completely trust President Trump and his judgment. And I'm so thankful that he is president right now, doing all this, and not all the other people, in the past or who've tried to run for that job in there, because I don't think they would have withstood any of the hysteria or the pressure. I think they would have gone right in, tried to do a regime change, and we're right back in the mire that we were in Iraq. So I'm thankful he's in charge. The problem is that, a lot of these agencies, they're still run by the same kind of permanent bureaucracy, the deep state, whatever you call it. They've not exactly filled me with a lot of confidence. For example, we had bin Laden, who was the architect of 9/11, killed thousands of American people. It took us, 10 years to find that guy? He was living in Pakistan, like next door to the equivalent of their West Point Military Academy. We had no idea he was there. So I'm a little skeptical when I'm told that Fordo is the only, source of uranium enrichment there. That's the only thing they have to worry about. They're 100% certain that if they take that out, there's no more nuclear threat. Okay, but what if that's not correct? What if there's somewhere we don't know about? What if they have other facilities? What if the bunker busters don't work? And I'm reminded of the timeless quote from foreign policy sage Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And we seem to think that, as long as we're the ones throwing punches, no one else is going to counterattack or counteract. And I'm really concerned if we go and do this and it's not immediately 100% successful, there are some really, really serious ramifications at that point. What if we don't take out the nuclear program? What if that causes them to race into producing something that they maybe hadn't thought of? that creates a really, really dangerous, completely unstable, chaotic situation that will probably make us far more endangered than we are now. And it bothers me that nobody's actually talking about what we know and what we don't know, and with what certainty we know or don't know anything.
So Sean, let's go through another one of these questions. How many American troops might die in an Iranian retaliatory strike? Do you know?
It's a great question. And you know, I've seen some stuff from maybe it might have been the Pentagon or some other sources, and they said, well, yes, obviously Iran can't hit the U.S. mainland. They just don't have the ballistic missile capability as far as we know. We could be wrong on that. But they're able to endanger troops in the area. And so I think, well, obviously that's intolerable. My generally baseline kind of operating assumption is if something's not directly in our interest, if we're not directly threatened, I really don't want to be accepting any American casualties. But the best way to make sure crazy regimes or evil regimes can't target people around them is, you know, maybe we don't have troops everywhere around there. It becomes a lot harder to target our troops around the world if we don't have them everywhere around the world. And again, it's us having to relearn the lessons of Iraq. If we hadn't gone in there and blown it up and created a disaster of the whole thing, leading to ISIS and all kinds of horribles, there wouldn't be people over there to be getting harassed or shot at. And that's something that I don't think is discussed nearly enough. We kind of just take it as a given, as if we have no control over where our people are and how close they are to being targeted.
I think President Trump deserves enormous credit here that he's not getting from the media, because the clamoring from Capitol Hill. Let's play some of these pieces of tape here. Do we have Lindsey Graham or Tom Tillis? I'm sure we do. We have endless clips here. And President Trump, he's not an isolationist. He's not an interventionist. He's something completely different. He's willing to use American force where necessary. Here we have dozens of these. Okay, how about this one? Tom Tillis, rock star, play cut 380.
It's time for regime change. And I believe that this president should be given a fair amount of leeway to affect that.
Regime change. How about this one? 331.
Do you think the United States should assassinate the supreme leader if they can?
The assassination of any individual, any foreign dignitary or leader on this, but we most certainly need to have regime change in Iran. This is the same regime that's threatened America and Americans. This is the same regime that oppresses their own people, that they use the money that they get from oil money to be able to put towards terrorism, to be able to kill us and our allies. They chant death to America in the streets. We definitely need a new regime there.
So basically his answer is yes, we should assassinate the supreme leader. So let me kind of go through my questions again. What are the refugee estimates of such a regime change? And what are the chances of a civil war? Sean, what did the quagmires of the Middle East tell you about when D.C. is calling? By the way, they have they're saying no shame. They haven't gone to a PR agency and come up with a new term than regime change. They're just using the exact same term as if nobody's learned and nobody cares. Sean Davis.
Yeah, it's really actually kind of sad and discouraging to see how many D.C. politicians on both sides have never found a war they're not willing to send other people's kids to die in. And I'm of the generation, the war on terror, Iraq war generation. I have friends who are over there who are injured, spiritually, mentally, physically. You talk to a lot of them now and they say, well, I look back now and what did we accomplish? We would go and pour out our blood and sweat and tears to take one little hamlet or village, and then a month later we'd be pulled out and we'd be back to where it was at the beginning. And that's not even getting into the issue that you brought up of refugees. As our government was pushing Syrian civil war, where did all those people go? They flee. They flee to Europe. They flee to the U.S. When we had the fall of Afghanistan, a place that we should have been out of 15 years ago, if not longer, we had all kinds of people, not good people, by the way, a lot of them terrorists, flooding into here, claiming asylum or refugee status. This always happens. And you look back through history, whether it's the Middle East or whether it's through Africa, these wars have massive, massive consequences. And as Americans, we seem to just think that if we say or wave a magic wand of regime change, that will have Western liberal Democrats in there who will, say all the things we have, and they'll have a thriving democratic republic like we do. And what actually happens is you end up displacing millions, if not tens of millions of people. You have refugee camps around the world. You have people coming in here by the millions, many of whom are impossible to vet and often mean us harm. It creates utter chaos. And it is shocking to me, given what we've lived through. We're not even talking about having to go read a history book to learn its lessons. We all lived through the last 25 years.
Totally.
To see so many people
right there.
not learn a single thing from it. It's insane.
We just hit $37 trillion in debt yesterday. Okay. And some people in D.C. are clamoring for yet another regime change war. Stay right there. What do we have? Relief factor. Living with everyday pain is having a voice that says, no, you can't do that. No, you can't play your favorite sport. No, you better not sit this one out. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor's unique formula of natural ingredients doesn't just mask pain. So give Relief Factor a try. It's only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Just go to ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. Call 1-800-4RELIEF. So see how with less pain you can say yes to more of everything you want. So go to ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. So take a look at it today, ReliefFactor.com. See how with less pain you can say yes to more of everything you want. Go to ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. That is the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. We'll be right back.
regime is falling, the citizen is rising, and Charlie Kirk is leading the way.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. And let me tell you something. I think this is important before I tell you about the Student Action Summit. I wish it was as easy and simple as it is being presented. Maybe it is. Probably isn't. In a country as old and proud and grand and ancient as Persia, it's probably not so easy as you just drop a couple bombs on a mountain and today you go away. Usually when things are presented in simple terms in foreign policy, they're usually wrong. That's one of the biggest takeaways of the last 100 years. These things tend to be infinitely complex, very deep, and the potential for mass escalation. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. Subscribe to our podcast. That is the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. Right now, we are number 3 right now in all Apple News podcasts. It goes the New York Times, Tucker Carlson, and then us. So we are the second largest conservative podcast. So do me a favor, take out your phone and download a couple episodes. Stay right there. Okay, Sean Davis continues with us. So, by the way, put 386 up on screen. That is the national debt clock. We're here at the Bitcoin.com studio. Bitcoin.com studio. The complexity of this is enormous, Sean, and I think the president has been incredibly prudent and restrained with high rhetoric, but also understanding that once you involve yourself in Fordo, the on-ramp for escalation is rather significant. So, Sean, of all these questions that you and I have, what is in the process and the best way for the American people to get answers? And should we trust Lindsey Graham and the people associated with when it comes to all things Iran?
Yeah, I think the only thing we can trust Lindsey Graham to do is push wars that he's not going to have to bear the burdens or consequences of. I think as American people, we have to do the thing that we always do, which is help our government and our representatives understand you represent us, you represent our needs and our concerns, and you have to level with us and be honest with us. You can't just come out there and say, trust me, we've got the intel. It's right this time. We got to go. Because the thing is, the American people, like we're a pretty trusting people. We're pretty open. We have zero appetite for being threatened or attacked by anyone. I think your average American is far more Jacksonian in their foreign policy outlook than anything. They don't really want to be enmeshed or entangled in foreign affairs or with foreign countries. But when it comes to defending ourselves, they want to be able to do it. And so I think our government just needs to be very clear-eyed and honest with the people. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. Here's what we think the best course of action is. And then listen. And one of the things I love about Donald Trump is he's got his own internal instincts. He's got his own political compass and radar. But the man listens, like minute to minute, day to day. He listens probably better than any politician we've had in modern memory. And I know that if people start telling him what they want, what they believe, what they think they need, he listens.
Yes, he does. And he is acutely aware of all the dynamics at play here. He's a phenomenal listener. And it's one of the main reasons why he has developed such great instincts over his entire career. In closing here, Sean, you and I both have seen nothing but lies and deception and misleading. Isn't it important for the audience to reconsider the premise of what they are being told? I encourage everybody here. And by the way, the premise might be right, but let's try to go down to first principles, right? Go back down to first principles and please understand the very same people that have been lying to you for the last 5 years about all the other stuff very well might be lying to you again. How does someone get back to first principles here, Sean?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is start at the very bottom. What do we know? What do we not know? Are we at risk? Are we not at risk? What are the likely consequences of doing things? What are the consequences of not doing things? I think this is a conversation we need to be having with our representatives, both in Congress and in the White House. And the best way for these institutions to get their trust back, which they've destroyed over the last 25 years, is to level with us. Tell us what you know. Tell us how you know it. And just be honest and level with us, as opposed to this tell, don't show thing that is still going on now, which I personally find maddening. Like, we don't trust these institutions. It's not that we always assume they're lying. It's not that we disbelieve them. It's that we don't believe you automatically. And that is a major, major problem when we're discussing things as weighty as war and life and death.
Sean, excellent work. Everyone check out The Federalist. He's been great on X. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page, where all this content can be found 24/7 on demand. I want to just repeat some of these because I think it's very important. If bombing Fordo can't permanently destroy the nuclear program, Will there be a pivot towards full regime change? What is the plan and the process for that? Is this clearly about nukes or removing a regime? What role do the Iranian people play here? Oh, here's another really good one. Can we get third-party analysis, not from talking points on the media? What is the best on-the-ground sentimentality of the Persian people right now? Because it's mixed. I opened up a whole TikTok where I said, hey, if you're in Persia, send me a message. Now, some of it could be fake. Some of it looked very real based on IP addresses. But a lot of the people emailing said that sentiment has turned more against America and that people actually are less likely to rebel because they're tired of being bombed. It's actually creating consolidation. That could be propaganda, of course. But we should also litmus test that as well, right? Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. Subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page and download a couple episodes. Favorite hour of the week coming up, our members call, members.charliekirk.com. Be right back.
America's Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored. And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth, and we're doing it on Getter
every single day.
So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
away from what has been dubbed the real reset. It's the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years. On July 6th, BRICS nations, which include Russia, China, India, Iran, and many more, are expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, thus cratering its value. They've already been laying the groundwork as their central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. So, how can you protect your IRA or your 401k from the fallout from this landmark shift? Well, you can simply diversify with gold from the Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. So get a free information kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word America to the number 989898. July 6 marks a monumental shift happening among nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings. It's as simple as texting the word America to the number 989898 and claiming your free information kit from the Birch Gold Group. Terrence Bates here with your Real America's Voice news break. Just in this morning, the U.S. Supreme Court upholds a congressional statute that allows Americans to sue Palestinian authorities for the murders or injuries of Americans in attacks abroad. The measure allows plaintiffs to pursue monetary damages for violence perpetrated years ago in Israel and the West Bank. The High Court's unanimous ruling overturned a lower court's decision that the 2019 law violated the rights of the Palestinian Authority and the Palestine Liberation Organization. At issue were concerns of due process under the U.S. Constitution. The federal government and a group of American citizens and victims and their families appealed that ruling to the Supreme Court. The ongoing violence involving Israel and the Palestinians serves as a backdrop for the case and today's High Court ruling. That ruling, by the way, was one of 6 the High Court handed down today. The others include guidance on California's emission standards. However, 10 cases are still yet to be decided. One of the more anticipated rulings has to do with the challenge to President Trump's order denying birthright citizenship to U.S.-born children of parents who are in this country illegally. The order is on ice at the moment as the lower court blocked it. However, the justices' rule on the issue will also create precedent for how much authority local and district judges have in issuing nationwide injunctions. Expect more and more rulings from the SCOTUS over the next month or so as the Supreme Court's term ends. President Trump is set to travel to The Hague in the Netherlands next week for a NATO summit. The issue of the conflict between Israel and Iran will likely be one of the key discussion points, as most world leaders agree that Iran just can't have a nuclear weapon. The issue of Iran's continued uranium enrichment and nuclear program is at the heart of the current fighting. And while Israel is taking the lead on attacking Iran, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump will make a decision on U.S. involvement in the fighting within the next 2 weeks.
The president is always interested in a diplomatic solution to the problems and the global conflicts in this world. Again, he is a peacemaker in chief. He is the peace through strength president. And so if there's a chance for diplomacy, the president's always going to grab it. But he's not afraid to use strength as well.
Leavitt goes on to say Iran has never been closer to obtaining a nuclear weapon. She also says the Islamic Republic has everything it needs to achieve a nuke and could develop one within weeks. President Trump still has control over California's National Guard right now as the Golden State's governor moves forward with a lawsuit challenging the legality of the commander-in-chief's use of California National Guard troops to put down protests and unrest in California. Thursday, a 3-judge appeals court in San Francisco extended the pause on a lower court's ruling, which said President Trump taking over the California National Guard without coordinating with Governor Gavin Newsom was unlawful. By law, the president can federalize state National Guard forces if there's an invasion, if there's a, quote, rebellion or danger of rebellion against the government, or if the federal government is unable to execute the country's laws with regular forces. Governor Newsom's lawsuit argues the LA protests didn't amount to a rebellion. That's a quick check of your headlines. We'll, of course, have more headlines coming your way here in just a little bit. But for now, let's get you back to the Charlie Kirk Show and your regularly scheduled programming.
right, everybody, welcome. It is the second hour of our broadcast here. We are here at the Bitcoin.com studio. It's the last hour of the week, which means that if you are a member, you can join this program. Members.charliekirk.com, members.charliekirk.com. Excited for your questions. I'm sure we'll get a fair amount of Israel-Iran questions. In fact, I want to hear from you guys as the members kind of what you're thinking about all this and if whether or not you caught the first hour. Matt, what is on your mind? Members.charliekirk.com. Matt, thanks for being a member.
Hey, Charlie, thanks for all you and your team do. Just my kind of question, thought of the week is around this land potential grab, if you want to call it that, in the big, beautiful bill that'll open up a lot of the federal lands for sale. And I can just see this going a particular way where it's not actually beneficial. It ends up being just, who's at the trough at the moment. And these are a lot of our most beautiful vistas and federal lands and parks. And it just got me a little worried.
And I hear that concern. So we have Senator Mike Lee coming on next week, who's the author of this, to defend this. I want to be clear, though. This is just BLM land, not Black Lives Matter, Bureau of Land Management. It's not national parks. And so I see it both ways. Like, of course, I don't want like Yellowstone to be sold to a bunch of developers or like the Grand Tetons or Yosemite or the Grand Canyon. But as someone who lives out west, especially in Arizona, there's a ton of national land that could potentially be developed for housing. So just so you understand, one of the biggest issues is that there's look at how much federal. I mean, Nevada is basically like 94% federal land. So Mike Lee has said this: we're talking about a minuscule percentage of federal land in or immediately adjacent to existing residential developments, and BLM leases would be off limits for any land sales. And so it is 29% of the land in America is owned by the federal government. Look, that is the federal land map out west. Now, the better way to probably do this is just give it to the states, and then the states can then do it. Because I think that a land sale from a PR perspective sounds terrible. Now, should we preserve beautiful federal land? Of course we should. But we're talking about land that is larger than Western Europe, all completely off limits for development. And a lot of that is just wilderness. And look, there is something he said that we do want to keep part of the West wild. But understand that if you start to run out of land for residential developments, you have two problems. You have to go vertical, and then people become more clustered and they become more liberal. It's just the truth. Now, some people say, I don't want to live in a country with no open spaces. We're not talking about get rid of open spaces. By the way, we couldn't get rid of all the open spaces if we tried. This country is a beast. It is massive. And just so we are clear, Texas has largely privatized almost all of their land. Look at that map. And Texas has a lot of open spaces. And by the way, Texas has their own mini Grand Canyon right near Amarillo, Texas. They have Big Bend National Park. So Texas, I think, is actually a really good example of this. One of the problems is out west, we have incredible issues when it comes to housing, major issues. And so we need more land to be able to develop housing. And if you don't want that, then get used to living in an apartment. If you want a house, sometimes you have to open up more land. This is only for a minuscule percentage of federal land in or immediately adjacent to existing residential developments of BLM leases. And by the way, I'd add one more component. No foreigners can buy this land. Just add one more component there. And so we're not like building in the Tetons. We're building in places in the middle of Nevada. Go ahead, Matt.
No, that's a great breakdown, and thank you for the extended time on that. My thought is kind of what you're saying is, more clustered, more liberal. Well, I think along with it, one way to do it is, okay, let's make the policy platform and agenda in all these states much more unpalatable for liberals to move into Utah, Nevada, Arizona, lock down that sector, and then,
totally.
I think additionally show for more kind of transparency on, like you said, if it's BLM leases that are adjacent to other residential, that's of course great. And as you mentioned, there's millions and millions of acres out there that are really untouched and that aren't going to be impacted, which is beautiful. But I also think that there are massive sections, if you go through Atlanta, St. Louis, a handful of cities in the country, Baltimore, that have major, and this is not really directly impacted by the federal lands element, but if you think about just places to build, there's massive sections of these cities that have just been completely kind of run down, wiped out, forgotten over the years. That also could be tied in with this. Okay, we're going to redevelop some of these areas in the cities that have been blighted alongside that, and then of course you add in deport 50, 60, 70 odd million illegals. That opens up a few spots as well. I think that all those things combined, we could end up with a really, really great outcome. Just need to make sure that that these land parcels are the right ones to put up for sale.
Very good. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being a member. Members.charliekirk.com. Okay, who do we have next? Jeff. Jeff, what is on your mind? Jeff, thanks for being a member. Members.charliekirk.com. It's members.charliekirk.com. What's on your mind?
Hi, Charlie. Can you hear me?
Yes. What's on your mind?
Great. I really appreciated the previous hour, and you have a great list of questions, but the one that I would like to add to that is, how do we know that Iran has not already developed the nuclear bomb? If Pakistan and North Korea, which I consider to be far more backward countries and less capable than Iran, have had that for years, how do we know? I mean, common sense to me says that they already have developed it and they're keeping it as an ace up their sleeve.
So that's a great question. I don't think they have developed it because there is a uranium enrichment crescendo that they have not yet reached. But this is a very important point, and this is the kicker. Pakistan, which, again, they're not a threat to the United States. I mean, well, Pakistan's a little bit of a liar. They did house Osama bin Laden. They have nuclear weapons. North Korea has nuclear weapons. One of the reasons why Donald Trump does not want Iran to get nuclear weapons is you do not need another crazy Ayatollah mullah to be able to have their hands on nuclear weapons. The International Atomic Agency has been tracking, but we are learning the more and more. Over the last week, we learned a lot about this because we were told it's very clear, hey, couple bombs, couple missiles, you could take over the nuclear program. We are learning that a nuclear program is a mindset. And as long as it is a mindset, then that means as long as the Ayatollah or his little gang of evil mullahs run Iran, then you're actually never going to completely get rid of a nuclear program. Let's just replay this piece of tape here. This is the UN ambassador. This is after the Israeli airstrikes. This is the U.S. UN ambassador. I think it's Cut 400, who says even after all the airstrikes, they're still 6 weeks away. So you do all these airstrikes. If a regime wants a nuclear weapon, unfortunately, in the modern world, it's very easy to develop it if you want it. It's a tragedy. And the Persians are smart people. And so if they make it a national ambition, as they have, and they really want to accelerate towards it, the timeline can be very compressed. Let's play Cut 400.
Iran's leaders could have avoided this conflict had they agreed to a deal that would have prevented them from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. But they refused to do so, choosing instead to delay and deny. We can no longer ignore that Iran has all that it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon. All it needs is a decision from their supreme leader. That is unacceptable, and this council must urge them to change course.
Okay, so if you listen carefully, what she is saying is a subtle nod to the regime change argument because she's telling the truth. She's Donald Trump's representative at the UN. They have all the material to do it. You could only delay it. As long as the Ayatollah breathes, then he has to just give an order and they put the pieces together. That's not what we were told a week ago. We were told that we could bomb all the mechanics and the machinery and we could stop it. You can only delay it if they want it. And so, therefore, if that is true, you're left with two choices. The first choice is you have to take out the regime. The other choice is you have to find non-regime change abilities to take out the nuclear program. You know, there's been a lot. Some people said nuclear capability. Some people said nuclear program. And words really matter with this stuff because nuclear program and nuclear capabilities are actually two different things. But now that is the U.S. representative in the UN that is saying they still have all the raw material and all the raw parts. After everything Israel has done the last week, they still have it. Because she's right. As long as the Ayatollah is there, if he gave an order, I want a nuclear weapon, they could do it. Which therefore, as we have been saying, and we are right, all roads lead to regime change. And that should introduce major pause. What do we have? zfactor.com. Zfactor is amazing. You guys should check it out right now. I think I know one person. I think we all know a person that's able to sleep very well at night. Z-Factor can get you guys back into the sleep groove. Give Z-Factor right now a try. You could save 46% on your first order, only $19.95 for a 30-day supply. Just call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's ReliefFactor.com. Relax your mind, fall asleep quicker, and sleep soundly with Z-Factor from Relief Factor, ReliefFactor.com. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. We'll be right back.
Speaking the truth, no one else has the guts to say. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. I want to tell you guys about YRefi. YRefi is amazing. They have been wonderful supporters of this program, of Young Women's Leadership Summit, of our Student Action Summit, of our campus tour. YRefi is awesome, and they're going to be supporting our fall tour. By the way, everybody, this fall tour, I literally can't get out there quick enough. It's June right now. Oh my God, I'm counting on the days. I'm like, well, it's just like another 75 days, then boom, we are back on campus, and it is going to be rocking. It is going to be incredible. Go to YRefi.com. YRefi does not care what your credit score is. If you go to YRefi.com, you can read testimonials from other people who have been where you are and how they've escaped. They help you with private student loan debt. I guarantee you, if you're listening to this, there's somebody in your life that you know that has private student loan debt. For me, it was a friend, family friend. Called them up. I said, hey, you guys got to check out YRefi. They're always, by the way, somebody, maybe it'll be at a July 4th cookout. Maybe it'll be at something. All of a sudden, they're like, man, I just can't get out of student loan debt. This is a problem. I want you to think about that, plant a seed, and then refer them to Why Refi, because they are patriots. They're amazing. I mean, they step up in major numbers, Student Action Summit, Young Women's Leadership Summit. It's incredible. So check it out right now, yrefy.com. That is YREFY.com. Just call 888-YREFI34 or log on to YREFY.com. May not be available in all 50 states. Welcome back, everybody. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. We're here at the bitcoin.com studio. If you want to become a member, it's members.charliekirk.com. Josh, thank you for being a member, members.charliekirk.com. What's on your mind?
Hey, Charlie, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
So I was wondering, I know you about a month ago you interviewed Dr. Gooch about Turning Point Academy.
Yes.
And so I applied to that, and I actually got accepted. So
Phenomenal.
I was kind of wondering,
praise the Lord.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was kind of wondering what kind of hopes for the outcomes for the students that are going to that. What are you hoping that we can kind of get out of that after the 9 months?
Well, I think, first of all, it's called Turning Point Academy Prep Year. I'm going to do my best to actually be there at the beginning of it. So basically, it's going to be 9 months intensive on real scholarship on scripture, philosophy, economics, civics. The best thinkers on the planet are going to be spending time with you, diving into original source texts in a 9-month period that will develop the most important two things, your soul and your character, in a way where you will be able to spend serious time in a one-on-one type environment with your professor. I mean, you're going to be in a very close, quarters. By the way, this is all happening in Fort Worth. It's beautiful facilities. It's absolutely incredible. It's really, really something. Our goal is that you are going to get a world-class type experience in a short period of time, in 9 months, that will change you for the rest of your life. You'll be able to better defend the scriptures. You'll be better to understand what is the good, the true, and the beautiful, who is Socrates and Aristotle and Aquinas and Augustine and Plato. And so that is the goal of Turning Point Academy, all pointing towards Jesus Christ, to give you in 9 months in a prep year type environment what colleges should be doing. So thrilled you're doing it, my friend, and hope to see you there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. It's members.charliekirk.com. That's members.charliekirk.com. Joshua, thank you for being a member. What's on your mind? Joshua. Okay, Joshua, make sure you unmute. Nope, let's go to the next one. Who's our next one? He wrote it in. Josh, I'll read the question. Charlie, you are a blessing. I'm praying for you to be strengthened in God's love and kindness, Psalm 32. Anyway, what is the word on homeschool funding, if any? Is it only an investment fund? I'm not exactly sure what that question means, but I'm guessing you're saying, will school choice dollars follow homeschooling? Yes, I mean, I hope they do. They don't currently yet, I believe, but I believe that if you want to homeschool your kids, then you should be able to use your tax dollars to be able to go back to yourself, because you're the ones that are then doing the homeschooling. So thank you for that. What's our next question, Daisy? Let me see what we have here. Also, before we get into that, David. Okay, David, thank you for being members.charliekirk.com. What's on your mind? Please unmute David. Okay, we're having some muting things here. Here's what David says. Could it be, Charlie, that President Trump has become president for such a time as this? That is a little bit of a wink and a nod to the book of Esther. Okay, David, what's on your mind?
I wanted to ask you about the war between Israel and Iran. A lot of people think it's just a rival thing, but this war started on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas were being trained in Iran, according to the Wall Street Journal, and funded by Iran. It attacked 1,200 Israelis with rape and murder and torture as the tactics of war. Then they kidnapped 200 Jews as young as 1 year old. These are the modern Nazis. Also in the Bible, Haman, who was from Persia, which is now modern Iran, wanted to kill all the Jews. God used Queen Esther to save the Jews for such a time as this. Right. The Jews will celebrate their victory every year in the Feast of Purim. This is biblical stuff, Charlie. We need to help Israel to win this war. We need to aid the Iranian people to overthrow their own government. We need to defend the Jews so there's not another Holocaust. I know from listening to your radio show that you don't like war, and I don't either, but I think war is sometimes very necessary, and this is one of those wars. Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world. things can only get better with the overthrow of their government. Could it be, Charlie, that President Trump has become president for such a time as this?
So, very interesting question and thoughtful. How many American troops are you comfortable with to effectuate regime change in Iran?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever's necessary.
No. So if 10,000 American troops died, would you be okay with that?
I would. I think this is the main enemy, not Iraq. This is it.
Do you think Iran is a greater enemy than China?
Well, we can't defeat China. See, that's an impossible scenario.
Oh, okay. So just to be clear, you would be okay with boots on the ground in Iran?
I would.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's not rational at all. I mean, Persia is 2.5 times the size of Texas. It is 92 million people, huge ethnic groups surrounded by mountains on every side. So just to be clear, and that's fine. You have a right to that opinion. We're running out of time. I'm going to respond to that after the break, but just to be clear, you are pushing for U.S. troops on the ground in Iran for regime change. Okay, we'll be right back.
Terrence Bates with your Real America's Voice here. Real America's Voice news break here, excuse me. Thanks so much for being here with us. President Trump is set to travel to The Hague in the Netherlands next week for a NATO summit. The issue of the conflict between Israel and Iran will likely be one of the key discussion points, as most world leaders agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. The issue of Iran's continued uranium enrichment and nuclear program is at the heart of the fighting right now. While Israel is taking the lead on attacking Iran, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump will make a decision on U.S. involvement in the fighting within the next 2 weeks.
The president is always interested in a diplomatic solution to the problems and the global conflicts in this world. Again, he is a peacemaker in chief. He is the peace through strength president. And so if there's a chance for diplomacy, the president's always going to grab it. But he's not afraid to use strength as well.
Leavitt goes on to say Iran has never been closer to obtaining a nuclear weapon. She also says the Islamic Republic has everything it needs to achieve a nuke and could develop one within weeks. President Trump still has control of California's National Guard as the Golden State's governor moves forward with a lawsuit challenging the legality of the commander-in-chief's use of California National Guard troops to put down protests and unrest in Los Angeles. On Thursday, a 3-judge appeals court in San Francisco extended the pause on the lower court's ruling, which said President Trump taking over the California National Guard without coordinating with Governor Gavin Newsom was unlawful. By law, the president can federalize state National Guard forces if there's an invasion, if there's a, quote, rebellion or danger of rebellion against the government, or if the federal government is unable to execute the country's laws with regular forces. Governor Newsom's lawsuit argues the LA protests did not amount to a rebellion. And Los Angeles really is a hotspot when it comes to challenges to President Trump's administration. Even the LA Dodgers organization is pushing back against the feds, saying it refused to allow ICE agents into a parking lot at Dodger Stadium on Thursday. Here's a quote. This morning, ICE agents came to Dodger Stadium and requested permission to access the parking lots. They were denied entry to the grounds by the organization. That's from the Dodgers. Dozens of federal agents in SUVs and cargo vans were reportedly forced to turn around and leave the parking lot.
Stop watching the news and start making some. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. That is the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. We're here at the Bitcoin.com studio. What do we have, guys? America's Greatest College. I'm going to tell you about America's Greatest College. Go to charlieforhillsdale.com. History, economics, the great works of literature. Did you study these things in school? Probably not, or even if you did, maybe it's time for an enjoyable refresher. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses, including their newest course on totalitarian novels. In this 8-lecture course, you'll learn from Hillsdale College President Larry Arnn as he goes in depth on 4 novels: 1984, Brave New World, Darkness at Noon, and That Hideous Strength. Even though these novels were written in the 1930s and 40s, they're highly relevant today as they show what a tyrannical government does to human nature. Go to charlieforhillsdale.com. So, more importantly, they can show us that faith, family, and friends are worth fighting for. Maybe you can read these books a long time ago in school. Maybe you've heard others talk about them. Maybe they seem a little intimidating. Let Hillsdale College help you make the most of them. Go to charlieforhillsdale.com to enroll. There's no cost. Easy to get started. charlieforhillsdale.com. That's charlieforhillsdale.com. CHARLIE for Hillsdale.com. That is charlieforhillsdale.com. Okay, just want to continue here with one of our members. And thank you, by the way, for being a member. And we just see this differently. But I do want to just make sure you repeat your position, David, and that I don't miscategorize it. You would be okay with U.S. troops on the ground to effectuate forcible regime change of the Ayatollah, potentially resulting in significant American loss of life if necessary. Is that correct, David?
Well, my position is that the people should rise up, and the Crown Prince of Iran, the Shah, the son of the Shah, he said he wants to send missiles and weapons into the people so they can fight the battle.
Right. Okay. So, I don't think it's called the Crown Prince, but maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, thank you for your position, though. Do appreciate the different take. We here believe that. Let me just ask one other question. Would you be worried about potentially millions of Islamists as refugees if Iran went into a civil war?
I'd rather have millions of refugees than all the Jews destroyed by a nuclear bomb. You got to think of what we're dealing with here. This is a country that's been chanting 45 years, death to America, death to Israel. I don't want to find out if they're really serious, because I believe they are.
Okay, that is your position. Thank you for being a member. Appreciate it. Members.charliekirk.com. Okay, let's go to the next one. Elizabeth, thank you for being a member. What is on your mind?
Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for taking my call. And just to let you know, we are praying for Dennis Prager every day for a full recovery.
Thank you. I actually saw, so can I pause you? I saw Dennis at the hospital a couple days previously on my way to Washington. He's steadily improving. He's still in very serious condition, but he's mentally all there. And Dennis, the number one message he wanted me to share with you guys, and I have to say it every day on the show for a couple days, Dennis said, Charlie, make sure you remind people the moral differences between Israel and Iran. So that is the message I'm carrying from Dennis Prager to you, and you should keep on praying for Dennis Prager. But Elizabeth, please continue.
Well, the reason that I'm calling is more of a domestic issue. I spend probably too much time on X, but that's where you have to go to get independent journalists. And I guess what can be done about these insane Democratic lawmakers abusing ICE agents and ICE facilities like they are tweens performing a bad TikTok challenge. When I look at what they are doing, it is reprehensible and, dare I say the word, tyrannical, that they have the audacity to show up to these people's place of work while they are employed at their workplace and physically assaulting them or demanding that they drop everything as soon as they get there to let them in. And it is galling that they're doing this for ICE facilities, and this has not gotten enough press coverage. Rikers Island has been taken out of New York City control. There were 6,784 stabbings in Rikers Island just in 2023 alone, and 33 deaths since 2022. How come all of these I'm so righteous, I'm so worried people never visit American prisons to look at American prisoners and see the quality of their conditions?
Mm-hmm. Wonderful question. First of all, anyone that gets in the way of these ICE facilities or ICE arrests, they should all be arrested. Completely.
Agreed.
The New York City mayoral candidate, Brad Lander, who was arrested a few days ago for obstructing ICE agents, is now back at the same courthouse doing it again. And so, these left-wing Democrats, that are doing this, they're trying to get social media virality, and they're trying to get, let's just say, more notoriety. Just arrest them. Don't make a big show trial out of it. Arrest them, move on. Representative Lamicah McIver has been indicted on 3 federal charges related to an incident outside of the Delaney Hall Federal Immigration Facility in Newark, New Jersey, on May 9th, 2025. And Alex Padilla got what he wanted. He was quickly put on MSNBC playing the victim. So we should arrest them all. We should be very prudent and focused in the way that we're doing this. And so thank you for your question. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlie. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Shannon, what is on your mind? Shannon, members.charliekirk.com. What is on your mind?
Hey, Charlie, can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
Good. Doing very well. Good to be with you, and thanks for accepting my call. So my question is, what can we expect in this year's AmFest? Because the chairwoman of Formosa Alliance, this small political party that funds this membership, is interested in flying out here from Taiwan, and she wants to know what's going to be on the agenda.
Well, we haven't announced it yet, but I can imagine some very big speakers. Last year, we had J.D. Vance. We had Donald Trump, not J.D. Vance, President Donald Trump. Right there, we had 21,000 people. In fact, I want to first plug SAS, our Student Action Summit, that is coming up in July. Everyone should know about it. SAS2025.com. Let's play cut 329.
They said Gen Z would stay silent, that we'd back down, that we'd forget what's worth fighting for. But this generation remembers. We remember truth. We remember freedom. And now, we rise. This is more than a conference. It's a call to action, to reclaim the future, to ignite a movement that cannot be ignored. Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Charlie Kirk, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, and more. Join thousands of students, future leaders, and freedom fighters. Raise your voice and take action. This is the battleground of ideas. This is the Student Action Summit. The future is ours to build. Register now at SAS2025.com.
So I would encourage your membership team, come to Student Action Summit July 11th, 12th, 13th in Tampa, Florida, SAS2025.com. God bless you. Thank you so much. Daniel, thank you for, you bet. Thank you. Daniel, thank you for being a member. I want to try to get to all of them. Go to members.charliekirk.com. Daniel, what's on your mind?
Yeah, A long time ago, there was concerns about dirty bombs. If conventional ones weren't available to a country, they might spew a bunch of radiation with a conventional tipped one. Is that a concern, especially if there is a regime change?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of nuclear material in this country. This is a great and important point, which is that when you have a country with 92 million people and 2,000 hypersonic ballistic missiles and a conventional military and then nuclear raw material, and you say, let's just take out the Ayatollah. Okay, what if you have someone more radical that takes over afterwards? That's what happened in Iraq. We got ISIS. In Libya, they're in the midst of a civil war. Syria, we finally got like the guy running Syria is an Islamist. He might end up being better, but like Assad was secular. He definitely wasn't pro-Western, but he might end up being worse. And so this is why a bottom-up movement in Iran, if the people of Iran want to take back Persia, God bless them. And we'll cheerlead them. There's little nudging things that we could do diplomatically, pipe in internet. By the way, if we start seeing 5 million people hit to the streets of Tehran, unlike in 2009 where they were waving American flags, I don't think we should leave them aside. I think you have to do something. There are soft nudging diplomatic things that you can do. Obama just let them get massacred. He blew it. But again, I understand Israel's trying to create the preconditions for that. That is not what we're talking about. James Lankford did not dismiss the idea of assassinating the supreme leader Ayatollah. That is insane. There should be a firm dismissal that we are not. By the way, you could create him into a martyr. I mean, that's a real thing. You might have all the Persian people that are, a little bit on board for a Western thing, and then boom, there's a martyr. Look, this is a bad example, but remember what Donald Trump went through when he all of a sudden became a sympathetic figure when lawfare started to get thrown against Donald Trump? And a lot of people said, okay, that's just wrong. Imagine if the West were to assassinate the head of the Iranian regime. The sympathy would go way up, potentially. We don't know what that looks like. The supreme leader. And so, by the way, it's also a new report here from the Rafael Grossi, the director of the IAEA, quote, armed attack on nuclear facilities could result in a radioactive release with great consequences within and beyond the boundaries of the state which has been attacked. Radiation's a big concern, big and major concern. Thank you for being a member. Really appreciate it. Let's go to our next question here, members.charliekirk.com. Gracie, thank you for being a member. What's on your mind?
Hey, Charlie. I just turned 18 on Monday, and I'm navigating through a new season of my life, and I wanted to know if you could provide me with any advice.
Well, thank you. That's a beautiful question. What is your plan? Are you going to college? Are you pursuing a career? And what is your goal?
I'm not totally sure. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay that you don't know. In fact, not knowing is knowing a lot, actually. So you're 18 years old. You have your entire life in front of you. If you want to pursue a career, that's awesome, and I can help advise you on that. If you want to pursue a family, I can also advise you on that. I mean, I got in a lot of trouble, at the Young Women's Leadership Summit. Again, everyone is very deceptive in the way I said that. I said, if your top priority in life is finding a husband, which it might be, then don't discount going to college with the intent of finding a husband. It's a great place to find a husband. And so the fact that you don't know is okay. So here's what I would recommend to you, Gracie. Jordan Peterson has something called Maps of Meaning. I'm drawing from memory. I saw Jordan the other day here in Arizona, where you can literally take a test and a quiz, and it will help you figure out what you want to do at a young age. I highly encourage you to do it. It's also called the self-authoring program. So, Gracie, our team will send that to you, and I think you could really enjoy that and benefit from that. So, Gracie, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. That's the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. If you want to ask us a question live here on air, become a member, members.charliekirk.com, members.charliekirk.com. We'll be right back.
Patriots love him. Leftists hate him. Nobody ignores him. It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. Let me go through with you our Student Action Summit announcement. Let's play 52 up on screen. We got to get a new video because we also have Megyn Kelly coming. We have Greg Gutfeld coming. We have Laura Ingraham. We have Pete Hegseth. We have Steve Bannon. All ages are welcome coming up at the Student Action Summit in Tampa, Florida, July 11th, 12th, and 13th. So it's just a couple weeks away. That's right. It's just a couple weeks away. July 11th, 12th, and 13th. And that is going to be in Tampa, Florida. Let's play again. Let's do this one. Let's play cut 330, please.
Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Secretary Pete Hegseth, Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, and more. Join thousands of students, future leaders, and freedom fighters. This is the battleground of ideas. This is the Student Action Summit. The future is ours to build. Register now at sas2025.com.
And all ages are welcome. That's right. All ages are welcome. You guys can secure tickets right now. We're likely going to sell out, just so you guys know. And let me just read some of it again. We have Secretary Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Don Jr., Steve Bannon, Greg Gutfeld, Laura Ingraham, Ross Ulbricht, Byron Donalds, Tom Homan, Josh Hawley, Ben Carson, Brett Cooper, Michael Knowles, Brandon Tatum, Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, Michael Watley, Anna Paulina Luna, James O'Keefe, and a very anticipated debate between Dave Smith and Josh Hammer about Israel. Everyone's talking about Israel. And I said, what a better opportunity to have and by the way, I'm going to moderate it. And so I'm going to make sure that it doesn't descend into some sort of just complete mess. But it's time that we start having these debates on the right. Is Iran an enemy? Should we stand with Israel? And let's just make those cases. And by the way, that was going to be really timely. It's sas2025.com. That's sas2025.com. Email us, freedom@charliekirk.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. We have a lot of videos going viral on TikTok right now. Let me play you one of them that is very... Actually, we don't have a lot of time, so I don't really have... Actually, yeah, let's just... This is funny. This one, actually, we do have time. This one has 5.5 million views. Play cut 407.
Okay, everybody. A lot of people are going to be saying Happy Juneteenth. It should not be a federal holiday, and I'm on my way to work. Have a good day.
That right there got 5 million views. So very viral, and we had a great day working yesterday. We were in the trenches. Hope you did too. 7.2 million views across all platforms. TikTok, small businesses are thriving, finding their customers and expanding. Learn more about TikTok's contribution to the U.S. economy at TikTokeconomicimpact.com. That is TikTokeconomicimpact.com. People say, Charlie, I thought you were against TikTok. Look, it's very well documented. We were skeptical. We weren't able to, but then boom, what a tool that we've been able to use to reach the next generation, win the youth vote. It's well documented. It's a tool and a technology, and we have used it appropriately and effectively to reach the next generation. Go to TikTokeconomicimpact.com. That's TikTokeconomicimpact.com. Portions of our program are brought to you in part by TikTok. Okay, let's try to get to as many as we can. In closing here, Greg, thank you for being a member. Members.charliekirk.com. What's on your mind? Greg. Okay.
Yeah.
Greg, yes, what's on your mind?
Yes, okay, thank you. Sorry. So when we're dealing with possibly the end of civilization, we know it, if things go wrong, if things go as bad as they could. But if we do have some neutron bombs hidden, if we took out Tehran with a neutron bomb and took out the mullahs, the Ayatollah, all the leadership, and they don't even know what hit them, and I don't know, why not?
Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding your question, are you recommending dropping a neutron bomb on Tehran?
Yes.
Okay, so you,
I mean, if it's possibly, I mean, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
No, just the thing is, one option is the end of civilization, as we know it. If World War III breaks out, if we hit Tehran with a neutron bomb and they don't even know what hit them,
right.
I don't know.
So just so we're clear, so you're clear, like 3 million people would die, including kids and civilians. That's a proposal.
How many people would die if we let this go to World War III?
Hold on. First of all, there's no guarantee this is going to go to World War III. Second of all,
no.
I reject the premise that we should drop a atomic or nuclear weapon on...
But not a thermonuclear. Not a thermonuclear.
Well, you said neutron, right? So the way a neutron bomb works, that's an enhanced radiation weapon. It's a type of thermonuclear weapon designed to have maximum lethal radiation while minimizing blast damage. So basically, you would kill the entire population with radiation over a period of time. And yes, it is a type of a thermonuclear weapon, okay? So a neutron bomb is just a semantical difference, okay?
So maybe not on Tehran. But, I mean, if we don't stop them from what they're doing, I think it's leading to World War III. I don't know how to stop it, so neutron bomb's not a good idea. But stopping Iran somehow from getting a nuclear weapon, but not us getting boots on the ground or them taking out our carriers.
Right. So I want to understand a little bit of the contradiction here, respectfully. You potentially started with dropping a nuke to stop them from getting a nuke.
If that's what it takes, yes. I mean, drop it in the desert. Just scare them with it, but I don't know.
Right. Are you a Christian?
Yes.
Okay. So I would have you probably try to reconsider that view, that indiscriminate killing of civilians and women and children, regardless of what story you're telling you that it's going to prevent World War III, is probably not God's intent for the people of Persia.
Well, I'm a Christian, but I believe the Old Testament too. I mean,
right. So I believe the Old Testament too, like, God created them in the image of God. All people are image bearers. And so dropping nuclear weapons is probably bad.
So, but if we go to World War III.
Right. Okay. So again, there's no guarantee anything's going to World War III. And even if we were going to go to World War III, there's no world that I could justify dropping a nuclear neutron bomb for the annihilation of a city to solve our problems. I don't think Christ would favor the annihilation of a city. In fact, I remember the teaching is blessed are the peacemakers, not blessed are the nuclear bomb droppers.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but whatever it takes to stop Iran from nuking Israel is my concern.
Thank you for your time.
And I don't want a bunch of Americans dying.
Sure. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. God bless President Trump, because he has to deal with senators like that are calling for him to do irrational things. Shabbat shalom. Pray for President Trump. We'll see you on Monday.